34th Sikh pioneers who were a specialist unit themselves.
That's right, yes. You see he's got a potted history of his military career there. Sandhurst, 1899 to 1900, Tibet, Norland, back to England for the Staff College, and then with his Sikh troops in France in the First World War, 1914, right at the beginning of the war. Yeah.
And a lot of these names here would have been English officers.
Yes.
Who would have led Sikhs and Indians in the wars.
Absolutely, yes. The NCOs would have been Sikh or other Indians, but the officers would have been English, that's right.
And what does this tell us? I mean, there's quite a lot of names, and we know that there were a lot of fatalities during the Great War, but just looking at the regiments, there's a tremendous mix of regiments represented here.
Yes, I mean, the Western Front in the First World War, it was a meat grinder. It sucked troops from all over the empire. I mean, before the First World War, Indian troops would not expect to be fighting in Europe. They'd be expecting to be fighting on the fringes of the empire. Suddenly, this terrible war breaks out in 1914. Troops that many of which had never seen Europe before or been to Europe suddenly end up in these terrible trenches on the Western Front. So it's like the British Empire in microcosm fighting on the Western Front.
Let's have a look over here at the Ferozepur Sikhs and the Ludhiana Sikhs just up here. And quite a lot of senior officers here as well, majors and captains.
Oh yes. Yes, well actually if you look at the ranks, yes there are majors, but a lot of the fatalities are lieutenants and captains who, you know, certainly obviously the most junior officer was a second lieutenant, but lieutenants and captains are still they'd be fairly young, you know, fairly junior. These are the chaps who are in the front line, who will be leading their companies and their platoons into battle and be the first to die.
And here we've got the Royal Sikh Pioneers, who are specialist regiments, a bit like infantrymen and engineers. What do some of these letters after their names mean? So MCS, CMG here?
Right, well, MC is Military Cross, that's the Gallantry Award. So Captain Hunt, there would have been a particular event that was observed by others that he performed that was very brave. It may have been to save the life of another soldier, it may have been to storm a position and lead him from the front. Whatever it was brave enough and important enough for him to be recommended for Military Cross, which he then obviously was awarded.
So looking at this panel here, we see quite a few Sikh cavalry regiments. Thane's Horse, King George's Own Light Cavalry, Prince Albert Victor's Own Punna Horse, Skindy's the Jacobs.
Yeah. And sadly, so many of these regiments were actually amalgamated after the First World War, which has been the story of the British Army in the 20th century, really, the constant defence cuts and amalgamations. Obviously, the new regiment would inherit the traditions of its parent regiments, but even so, it's always sad when regiments get amalgamated.
And quite sad as well that a lot of these regiments today are found on either side of the border in India and Pakistan.
Tragic, yeah, tragic. Absolutely.
Looking at some of these, we see quite a few Sikh names here: 51st Sikhs, 52nd Sikhs, 53rd, 54th as well. Again, a lot of Sikh representation, and a lot of these officers would have been leading their men, in particular on the frontier. So this is Afghanistan.
Yes, obviously not all Sikh troops were sent to the Western Front, thankfully, because it was a horrible place to be sent. We still had to protect the frontiers of the empire, and of course we had the Turks. The Germans were in alliance with the Turks. And of course there was always the Afghans liable to cause problems. So some Sikh troops had to be left behind on the frontier to keep British India safe, that's right.
And not to be underestimated in terms of importance, it was very important to be kept in Afghanistan.
Absolutely, because our big fear, while the British Empire still existed, was that the Russians would come through Afghanistan and threaten British India. And the Afghans themselves played on that, you know, they sometimes were allied with Russia, sometimes with us. So we had to have good troops on the frontier to make sure that neither the Russians nor the Afghans actually threatened British India.